Okay. I'm back. Hello and welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Kate. I make videos about books and bookish things, and I'm back. I know I said I would be back last summer and then just kind of very much wasn't back, but I really am back this time, I mean it. And what better video to return with than the Mid Year Freakout Tag 2024 to give you both a bit of a life update and just a general update on my reading, because weirdly enough, in my absence, I have been doing a lot of reading. So where have I been from when you last saw me? Well, last summer was a bit of a rough one for me, so as much as I'd initially said I would come back, I decided that it was easier for me to just take a break from the YouTube stuff for a bit. You know, one of my hobbies that I can very easily pick up or put down, and so let that one be. And then I was incredibly busy doing the third and final year of my degree, and I graduated a couple of weeks ago, which was very big and exciting and means that I feel comfortable saying that I am a Durham graduate. I went to Durham University and I got a 2-1 in English there, which I have to say, best thing I've done in my life so far. I loved university so much, and I'm so glad that I got to experience it where I did and with the friends that I did. So yeah. Final year was fantastic, and now I'm home for the summer, but I am looking to continue living in the northeast for a while, not least because there is a huge amount of arts opportunities up there, and I now need to get a job and like have a career and stuff, and ideally I want to do that either in theatre or in books, and northeast is perfect for that. That's the me update pretty much. I do also have some videos that I filmed last summer that I didn't edit or upload, and so I'm hoping to do that now, so stay tuned for me as of a year ago reviewing Revolutionary Road and giving you a nice little secondhand book haul, so look forward to that, I guess. And I also obviously have new stuff planned for talking about the stuff I read during my degree, recently read stuff, and just generally doing more of this, because I really missed doing this. I really enjoy filming and editing, and so it's very nice to come back to this, especially now that I have my last decent break before I become an adult with a job. So that means life update out of the way. Let's talk about the books I've been reading. Let's do the Mid-Year Freakout Tag questions. So the first question is the best book that you've read so far in 2024, and that for me has to be either The Gloaming by Kirsty Logan or Foul Lady Fortune by Chloe Gong. The Gloaming was a completely random purchase I made in a local bookshop up at university, and it was immaculate. It was the exact whimsical fairy tale fantasy vibes that I enjoyed in the books I read as a kid, but upgraded to an adult story with adult characters, and it was just the writing, the characters, the story itself all just completely blew me away. It was just absolutely perfect for me. I cannot recommend it highly enough, and as it is, I got one of my friends to buy and then read it, and they were also obsessed with it. And Foul Lady Fortune is one of the latest in Chloe Gong's releases. It is based on the Shakespeare play As You Like It, which is my favourite Shakespeare comedy, and it follows along from the events of These Violent Delights and Our Violent Ends, and it was just, again, Chloe Gong's writing is magnificent. Rosalind was a character I already loved from These Violent Delights, and then getting her own story, just Chloe Gong is truly a magician to me. I admire her writing so much, and I'm so excited therefore to read Foul Heart Huntsman when it comes out in paperback. Again, I buddy read all of Chloe Gong's books with one of my best friends, and so getting to read along with Alfie, and we do our buddy reads on Storygraph, which means we can read each other's comments as we were going through the books, and it is the most fun thing to do. Do buddy reads on Storygraph. If you are someone who likes sharing books with people, cannot recommend that experience enough, and Foul Lady Fortune was absolutely making me go insane. So yeah, 2 5-star books, so excited about them. Yeah, highly recommend. Question 2 is best sequel that you've read in 2024, and that has to go to Vengeful by V.E. Schwab. I have talked at length about Vicious on my channel previously, and I finally got round to doing a reread of Vicious and then picking up Vengeful for the first time over Easter, and oh my god. It is incredible. I had slightly mixed feelings about the fact it was nearly twice the length of Vicious going into it, but as it is, I wouldn't cut any of it. The backstory we've got for Eli, the extension of the lore around Victor and his powers as he starts to realise the limitations of them, and also just Sydney growing up. Our new antagonist as well, Marcella. Oh my god, what a fantastic character. I was absolutely hooked on it. I read it in a ridiculously short amount of time, and I am now desperately trying to get more of my friends to read it too, because what a fantastic book, and I'm extremely excited. Literally a couple of days ago, V.E. Schwab posted on their Instagram that they have started writing Victorious, which is the third and final book in the Villain series, and oh my god, am I excited for it. I cannot wait to see how she decides to wrap it all up, but yeah, fantastic. Question 3 is a new release that you haven't read yet but want to, and for that I'm going to say Cahokia Jazz by Francis Spufford. I was lucky enough to go along to Hexham Book Festival this year. I got to hear him talk about Cahokia Jazz and it sounds like a fantastic book. It is a noir thriller set in the 1910s in an alternate universe where the Native American population is around the same proportionately as the white and black American populations at the time, and so we are now in this incredibly racially diverse America following a murder mystery, and hearing him talk about it just sounded so interesting. I've bought myself a copy. It's one I'm very much looking forward to getting to. My mum has read Francis Spufford's books and says that he's an excellent writer, so I'm really looking forward to experiencing that for the first time. Question 4 is most anticipated release for the second half of the year, and for that I have to say Vilest Things by Chloe Gong. I have Immortal Longings, which I'm going to be buddy reading with Alfie very shortly, which is her adaptation of Antony and Cleopatra, which is my favourite Shakespeare play overall, and Vilest Things is the sequel. I cannot tell you how excited I am to read it, to the point where I'm almost nervous about getting to it because my expectations are so high and I will be so crushed if they're let down. But yeah, she hasn't let me down so far, even though again my expectations have been raised very high by the quality of writing she provides, so I'm just hoping it is truly as fantastic as it looks to be. And that cover, whoever designed the covers for Immortal Longings and Vilest Things deserves a kiss on the forehead, because these are immaculate. Question 5 is biggest disappointment, and for that I have to say Euphoria by Erin Cullhead. This was a random purchase I made last year that I read shortly after the end of exam season, and it was just so disappointing. What it is meant to be, what it claims to be, is a fictional retelling of the final year of Sylvia Plath's life, where she had just given birth to her son, she was in the process of getting the Bell Jar published, and her marriage with Ted Hughes was fully breaking down due to his affairs. But the problem was that firstly, the writing was clearly trying to emulate Sylvia Plath's poetic style, but all this really ended up being was incredibly laborious, verbose prose, where I was just there going, can you not just describe a feeling succinctly, please? It just got frustrating, and it really didn't feel like Sylvia Plath's writing as a result. You know, she has incredible imagery and careful use of words, and this just ended up feeling excessive. And also, this book was just fundamentally about wanting to have sex with Ted Hughes, which I just really wasn't on board with. No one asked for a 6-page sex scene involving Ted Hughes. I just really didn't like it, and for a book that was meant to be about exploring her attempts to balance motherhood and being a wife with being a writer, there was next to nothing about her writing. It was pretty much all focused on her being a wife. And so for a book that was meant to be kind of about like reclaiming Sylvia Plath's narrative, I guess, it ended up being way more about her husband than about her. So it fundamentally completely failed in that regard and made it an incredibly frustrating read for me as someone who has been a big fan of Sylvia Plath in my youth and therefore an ardent Ted Hughes hater. So yeah, it just let me down in every conceivable way. But it had the most gorgeous cover, and that is what I am so mad about. That cover is glorious, and yet the insides really weren't it. Question 6 is biggest surprise, and for that I'm either going to go for Kindred by Octavia E. Butler or Evelina by Fanny Burney. These were 2 books that I read for my degree and both just absolutely blew me away. Kindred is just the most incredible take on a time travel narrative where a woman is thrust into the past in order to essentially preserve her ancestral line to allow herself to be born. But the context is that she is a black woman and she is being therefore forced to save the life of the white slave owner's son who would ultimately rape a relative of hers to lead to the genealogical line that would allow her to be born. So it is the most gut-wrenching look at what it means to be black in America with this sort of fantastical sci-fi element of the time travel narrative, and I absolutely tore through this. I was there reading it for fun in the evenings, even after it was, you know, doing my regimented amount to get it done for my tutorial. I was just there reading it in the evenings because I wanted to read more of it. It was fantastic, and I really wasn't expecting to gel with it as a general. I'm a bit hit and miss with sci-fi and fantasy both, and so I didn't expect much of it, but oh my god was it fantastic. And Evelina, similarly, this was something for my restoration module, which on the whole was the most hit and miss, but it was the most brilliant, like, comedic story about entering high society in the 18th century, and I just absolutely adored it. If you're a fan of Jane Austen, I cannot recommend this more highly enough. I'll go into more detail when I eventually do my tier ranking everything I read in third year video, which will be coming. But yeah, Evelina and Kindred were both just absolutely fantastic things that had just kind of been on my course that I wasn't really expecting to necessarily pick up, but when I did, I was so glad that I did. So yeah, highly recommend both of those. Question 7 is your favourite new author, either debut or new to you, and for that I have to say Kirsty Logan, author of The Gloaming. I will absolutely be seeking out more of her books because her prose style is just so tasty. I loved it. And Andrea Levy, I read Small Island for my degree as well, and it was just phenomenal. I am so sad knowing that she's dead and there's going to be no more books of hers coming out, but I know very well that my mum has a very large stash of her books downstairs in her book collection, so I'm very much looking forward to reading more of her stuff because Small Island was just so fantastic. Question 8 is newest fictional crush. Now, I normally say that I'm a bit hit and miss these days with fictional crushes. I tend to just not be as, you know, romantically invested in people anymore, but I have to say Orion Hong from Foul Lady Fortune did it for me immediately. I was buddy reading this with Alfie, as I said, and as soon as we got to the first section about him and he was described as frivolous and relaxed, I was just completely enamoured with him. He is both the most silly, ridiculous man who can't take anything seriously and is so incredibly sincere, and I am a very fond fan of sincere but silly men, so Orion Hong firmly has my heart, and watching him romance Rosalind was one of my favourite parts of Foul Lady Fortune, so very excited for Foul Heart Huntsman, if only to see Orion get his girl. Question 9 is newest favourite character, and for that I'm gonna have to go with Betty 5 from Collective Rage, a play in 5 Bettys by Jen Silverman. This is a play, so I kind of don't know if it counts, but I'm gonna give it anyway because it's something I read this year. It is a play about women finding community with each other in a very queer way through theatre, and Betty 5 is a gender fluid person covered in tattoos who uses she, her pronouns, who essentially seduces the most Karen-esque woman ever, and the whole way through the play she is just trying to find a way to access her feelings, having previously been in jail, and she is just so charming, so sexy, so funny, and I was a really big fan of her narrative. Watching the 5 Bettys find friendship with each other and find ways to connect in a world that's made them collectively angry is just stunning, and yeah, I love it. It's a very silly, very fun play, and I already love Jen Silverman's writing from We Play Ourselves, which I read a year or 2 ago, so yeah. Can only recommend. Question 10 is a book that made you cry, and I'm once again bringing out Foul Lady Fortune because in this book we got the reveal that Rosalind is demisexual, and I don't think it's a huge spoiler for me to say that, which is why I'm just saying it outright, but oh my god, canonical demisexual representation makes me sob every time I read it. I myself am demisexual, and it is not a sexuality that gets much focus even in queer stories, and so finding a character that I already loved canonically shares my identity, and you know, reading it so explicitly explained and explored was just incredible. I sat there sobbing during the pages in which it was revealed, and yeah, it was fantastic. Question 11 is a book that made you happy, and that is where I get to tell you that I finally read Red, White and Royal Blue by Casey McQuiston, which everyone and their mum on the internet has read these days, but I am so glad that I did. Do I think it is necessarily one of the greatest works of fiction of our time? No. Was it a lot of fun though? Yes, it was. I was grinning cheesily reading most of it, and yeah. It deserves its flowers. It's good fun. Good bit of escapism. Made me very happy. Question 12 is the most beautiful book that you've bought or received so far this year, and for that I'm gonna say Half a Soul by Olivia Atwater, which I literally bought this week. I will have a big book haul coming for you soon, so no more spoilers in regards to that, but what a gorgeous cover. Big fan of the colour green, obviously, but I love the font, the layout. It's just very pretty, isn't it? Very much looking forward to reading it. And then finally, the last question, which is one I ignore, is just what books do you have to read by the end of the year? To which I say I don't have to read anything. I read for leisure, so I always am aiming to get towards the end of my physical TBR, but also it doesn't really matter. I want to do some rereads over the summer as well. I really want to reread the Scythe series because it's still living rent-free in my mind. Ruby Redford I would also love to do a reread of, but otherwise it's just me getting through my physical books. So yeah, that is the end of the Mid-Year Freakout Tag, and that is the end of my little update. I'm very much looking forward to making more videos, very, very glad to be back, and I hope that you're glad to have me back on your screens. But yeah, thank you very much for watching. I do hope you enjoyed this video. If you did like it, please give it a like and comment down below what the best thing you've read so far this year is. Let's do a bit of a catch-up. Let me know what I ought to be reading, having been offline for a little bit. Feel free to subscribe if you are new here, and I will see you next time. I don't know what I'm doing, and it shows.